Tonight, I want to tell you a story that doesn't begin with a scream, but with a silence so deep it felt like the world had paused to listen. Somewhere deep in the northern woods, far from signal towers, cities, and maps, there sits a house, not abandoned, not forgotten, just waiting. It was supposed to be a weekend getaway, a digital detox, as Mia called it. Three friends, Mia, Jake, and Lila, were on a long overdue road trip, following a scribbled map Jake found in his late uncle's journal. The cabin was real, he'd said, beautiful, untouched, hidden in a part of the forest no one ever visited anymore. No service, no electricity, just candles, a fireplace, and each other. "It'll be like we've stepped out of time," Mia said. "More like stepped into a horror movie," Lila muttered, half joking. The forest swallowed the dirt road hours before the cabin revealed itself. A slanted roof, foggy windows. It sat at the end of a thin trail crooked like a forgotten thought. They were exhausted, hungry, but the house was warm inside. Too warm. The first night was uneventful. They lit candles, made jokes, and fell asleep under thick blankets until Mia woke up. She didn't know what time it was. No clocks, no phones, just the tick of the old wall pendulum and the sound of whispering, faint, almost like wind through the cracks in the wall, except it wasn't wind. It was breath. "Don't wake up," it said. "Stay asleep." She sat up, heart racing. The room was dark, the candle burned low. She saw nothing, but she felt watched. When she finally fell asleep again, she dreamed of a door. Not the cabin's front door, but a narrow wooden one in the floor, hidden under a rug. In the morning, Mia didn't mention the voice, but the dream, she did. Lila blinked. "You dreamed of a door under the rug, too?" They both stared at the living room floor. Jake shrugged. "Well, there's a rug. Want to look?" They pulled it back, and there it was. A wooden trapdoor with a heavy iron ring. Dusty. Latched. Jake laughed nervously. "Creepy as hell, but cool. Probably just a root cellar." They didn't open it. Not yet. That night, it was Lila who woke up. She felt cold. She swore she heard footsteps above her, even though they were on the top floor, and a low knock, just once, on the wall behind her bed. Then the voice. "Open the door." She covered her ears, but it didn't stop. "Open the door." By morning, she looked pale, tired, but again said nothing, until Mia brought it up again. "Did you hear it? Last night?" Lila just nodded. Jake was skeptical. "You guys are psyching each other out." But when he went to light the fireplace, he found a piece of paper in the ash. It read, "I'm still here." They argued all afternoon. "It's some kind of prank," Jake said. "Someone came out here before us." But no one ever visited this part of the woods. The road itself was nearly invisible. By sunset, the house felt different, heavier. Mia stood above the trap door and whispered, "What if it wants to be opened?" Lila shook her head. "Doors don't want anything." But Mia knelt down anyway. Jake reached out. "Don't." The latch snapped on its own. They froze. The door creaked upward, slow and loud, revealing a staircase descending into pitch black. In the air that came from below, it wasn't cold. It was wet. Chunk 4, below, the house and the waiting. They held candles and stepped down, one by one. The air smelled of rot and damp wood. The steps groaned like they hadn't been touched in decades. The cellar wasn't empty. There were dolls, hundreds, lined on shelves, all old, all staring. Some had teeth. And at the very end of the room, there was a chair, Not just any chair, an armchair facing the wall with restraints on the arms, and in it sat a figure, still, slumped, wrapped in burlap. Its head was covered, tied tightly. Jake backed up. "We're going. Now." But the cellar door slammed shut above them, and the voice whispered again. "You opened it." They screamed, slammed the trap door. Nothing opened. Jake found a rusted hammer and tried to pry the boards. The figure never moved, but the air felt alive with something unseen. Lila stared at the burlap-covered thing in the chair. "It's not real," she whispered. "It can't be." Then it moved, only slightly, a twitch in its finger, then again, and the whisper came louder now, not in their heads, but from every corner of the cellar. One must stay. The lights flickered, candles snuffed, complete blackness, and when they came back on, Mia was gone. Chunk 5, the deal. And 10 years later. Jake screamed her name. Lila searched the corners, but the chair was empty now too. And where the figure had been, a message was carved into the stone wall. "You brought her. You opened it. She is mine now." They ran, kicked the door until it broke open. Outside, the forest was no longer quiet. Something followed them in the trees. Eyes between branches, movement in shadows. They didn't stop until they hit the car. It wouldn't start. Lila didn't cry until they reached the highway. A ranger eventually found them. They told their story. But when they returned, the house was gone. Jake doesn't talk much now. He moved far south, won't go near forests, won't light candles. Lila sees Mia in dreams. And every time she does, Mia is standing in a doorway, underground, whispering, "You should have stayed." They both search for the house again. No one's ever found it. But sometimes, when the wind is still and the woods are deep, there's a rumor of a house that doesn't exist on any map. It waits. And if you find it, don't open the door. Now close your eyes. And if you hear